So now we've got another currency that has the ability to change enormous industries. And it will change, it can change banking, insurance, real estate, and government itself. This is bigger than the internet, it's bigger than the Iron Age, the Renaissance, it's bigger than the Industrial Revolution. This affects the entire world. In 5 years, you're going to try to go buy coffee with fiat currency, and they are going to laugh at you because you're not using crypto.
Bitcoin is the pets.com of the cryptocurrency world.
The pets.com, my God. Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin is tied to the network and how big that network is. And according to Metcalfe's law, the power of a network is the number of nodes in that network, number of people, squared. And so Bitcoin already has like 2/3 of the, they have a huge lead. They have an enormous lead. In general, it's a better currency. It's just better. It's, as the engineers work on it, make it so it's easier to transact business, to buy coffee, whatever, this currency is going to be, it's decentralized, it is flexible, it's cross-border, it's global, it's sort of everything you guys want as millennials. You want a world that's open.
I just want to point out that Tim Draper has actually been quite modest about one thing, and that is, you a few years ago, when I think Bitcoin was at $300, you predicted it would reach $10,000, and the world scoffed. And you hit it within 3 weeks or so of the. You said in 3 years, and within 3 years, it kind of ticked right up to 10,000.
Yeah, I was 3 weeks early.
250,000 is.
And now it's 250,000 by 2022.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Draper. Tim, welcome to Intelligence Squared US. You're a venture capitalist. You're the founder of Draper Associates and DFJ and Draper University. You were an early investor in companies some people may have heard of: Tesla, Hotmail, Skype. How does Bitcoin compare?
Oh, this is bigger than all of those combined. This is bigger than the internet. It's bigger than the Iron Age, the Renaissance. It's bigger than the Industrial Revolution. This affects the entire world, and it's going to be affected in a faster and more prevalent way than you ever imagine.
I wish we first for the motion, Bitcoin is more than a bubble and here to stay. Here is Tim Draper.
I wanted to say that this is sort of the perfect audience. It's a bunch of millennials, and this is all going to be in your hands. It's what happens to the world. Do we have a world that you kind of grew up in where you are deeply in debt, you are coming out with a bunch of facts that don't help you get employed, and you're coming into this world that's your grandfather's fiat world that's very controlled and constrained, and you're saying, what? Does this make any sense? And you have a major opportunity right now. All of a sudden, this amazing thing happened. Satoshi Nakamoto came up with a new kind of currency. And now, let me take you through a history of currencies. We used to use shells, and we'd carry around shells, but then they got too bulky. And then we moved to gold. And then gold got too bulky, and we kind of ran out of it. And then it was the promise of gold, or the promise of silver. And that was like a silver certificate. And then it was like the full faith and credit of the US government. And that's the Federal Reserve note. And you're looking at it, and you're kind of going, well, okay, well, what is this? It's just paper. And they say the full credit of the US government. And all of a sudden, there's this currency. It's awesome. The Federal Reserve note, you are relying on a third party to hold your currency, right? You rely on a bank. So now you've got this new currency, and your trusted third party is 100,000 computers that are all focused on making sure that every single transaction is done perfectly. So now, do you think that humans are going to make sure that every single transaction is done perfectly? So in this case, you've got a new currency, and it's virtual, and it's something that that transcends geographic borders. So you don't have to be reliant on your country. I had this great guy came up to me, and he said, his name's Sebastian Serrano, and he said, you know, I lived in Argentina all my life, and my family fortune disappeared 3 times. And I'm only 30 years old, and it's just disappeared to currency manipulation. And, you know, as you know, the Argentinian peso has dropped 30% a year. Same thing with Nigerian naira or whatever. Anyway, Sebastian said, I'm going to start this business, and I'm going to build it all on Bitcoin. And he did, and it's an enormous success. Now, people ask things like, is it a bubble? The whole premise of is it a bubble is ridiculous, because our last bubble, what was that? The internet bubble. Was that a bubble? You guys still use the internet. I see some of you actually using it right now. That was no bubble. That was an amazing transformation of our world. So now we've got another currency that has the ability to change enormous industries. And it will change, it can change banking, insurance, real estate, and government itself.
And the question I still have is, why on earth do we think that Bitcoin is going to become this incredibly widely used, useful currency compared to all the other alternatives? Why do we think is there any technology in the world, any big technological advance we've had, where the first mover advantage ensured that stayed dominant all the way through? There are always copycats.
All the best engineers in the world are working on Bitcoin.
Okay,
they're working, and they're going to make it better and better. In 5 years, you're going to try to go buy coffee with fiat currency, and they are going to laugh at you because you're not using crypto.
So we're going to have you back in 5 years, and somebody's going to be laughing at somebody. I think we should test that in 5 years.
Okay, I want my schedule, but I'm game.
All right. Are we at a point in Bitcoin's presence development that regular people are it's dangerous for them to get involved with it? And you know, you guys are very savvy investors. You're sophisticated, but would regular folks get burned, and would their getting burned undermine the kind of acceptance you're looking for?
I'm regular folk. I don't know what these guys are talking about. We're regular folk, and I'm always a little embittered whenever I hear people say, "Oh, I know better than you do what you should do with your money." I'm looking and I'm saying, "Well, you know what to do with your money, but we're giving you an alternative. Like, hey, you may want to move some of your money into this thing because like if a government collapses, you can go into another country and just pull it down."
I just want to point out that Tim Draper, believe it or not, from the Tim Draper we've seen here, has actually been quite modest about one thing, and that is, a few years ago, when I think Bitcoin was at $300, you predicted it would reach $10,000, and the world scoffed, and you hit it within 3 weeks or so of the. You said in 3 years, and within 3 years, it kind of ticked right up to $10,000.
Yeah, I was 3 weeks early. That probably should have.
Must have been very satisfying for you.
Actually, no. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, okay. Well, now what?
Now, okay. 250,000 is.
And now it's 250,000 by 2022. But there's some. Part of it is I sort of have seen these amazing transformations of the world from just the very beginning. Just from like there was just two guys and a dog that started Hotmail, and all of a sudden we are all communicating through web-based email for free. And there was just two guys and probably a cat that started Skype. And all of a sudden we are all seeing each other when we communicate with each other for free. And that all started just with this little thing. And it spreads very quickly around the world. And once it spreads, we all kind of go, oh yeah, that's obvious. Of course, we can Skype each other. Oh yeah, no problem.
So to your opponents, to the side argument against, it sounds like your opponents are saying you lack the vision thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're good with that.
absolutely.
You sign up for that. Okay.
No, actually, I'll say it differently. You said earlier, Tim, that basically you had the internet boom and bust, but the internet's still here. Okay? But guess what? Guess what?
It got much bigger.
Yeah, pets.com.
And they called that a bubble.
Yeah, Tim, pets.com is not still here.
Oh, yeah.
The
Oh, you can pick
Bitcoin is like
Pick out
pets.com.
one out of
Because
like
guess what?
500 companies.
However,
There were a lot of
Bitcoin-
a lot of internet darlings in 2000 that boomed, that went as high as, say, Bitcoin has, okay?
Sure.
People looked like a genius for a moment and they collapsed. And yes, the internet survived. Yes, blockchain will survive. But will Bitcoin survive? Bitcoin is the pets.com of the cryptocurrency world.
Okay, well, I would
Bitcoin-
argue that,
Ouch.
that
Ouch.
it is very likely, the pets.com, oh my God. The,
Remember it? There's
I
a reason
think
why
it's
you
very
don't.
likely that Bitcoin does end up winning this long-term crypto battle. And it is sort of an internal battle, but boy, we're all out there for the right thing.
Okay, audience
Oh, wait,
questions.
wait, wait,
But
wait.
say-
No, I'm not
Sorry,
waiting.
no,
Audience
Tim,
questions
I
now.
haven't made my
Sir,
point.
Did Tim say that you think it is going to win or not going to win?
Tim, did you truly not make your point? Because if you didn't, go for it. Okay,
I did
go
not.
for it.
But Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin is tied to the network and how big that network is. And according to Metcalfe's law, the power of a network is the number of nodes in that network, number of people, squared. And so Bitcoin already has like 2/3 of the. They have a huge lead. They have an enormous lead.
And it
because
can
their
evolve.
network
Why does
is bigger
Ethereum
than
exist?
any of
It
the
can-
other networks.
Why does Ethereum exist?
And new technologies will come up, but just as Microsoft added those technologies as they benefited from them, Bitcoin is doing that too. You said Bitcoin's not fast enough. Lightning Network sped it up pretty fast, and that had to do with another technology that came from another cryptocurrency, and they brought it in.
You're just saying that
Do you see the coexistence of Bitcoin and fiat currencies, or do you see the complete replacements of one of the currencies?
In other words, will the dollar disappear? Will the pound disappear and
Yes.
Bitcoin come supreme? Tim, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it's never really one or the other. Usually, the fiat currencies will try to adapt and they'll try to create a currency that, well, first they're trying to create currencies that are just tied to their government and they miss the entire purpose. But they'll start thinking, hey, I want to create a global currency too. And those governments will probably survive. But in general, it's a better currency. It's just better. It's as the engineers work on it, make it so it's easier to transact business, to buy coffee, whatever. This currency is going to be, it's decentralized. It is flexible. It's cross-border. It's global. It's sort of everything you guys want as millennials. You want a world that's open.
And that concludes round 2 of this Intelligence Squared US debate, where our motion is Bitcoin is more than a bubble and here to stay. And now we move on to round 3. Round 3 will be brief closing statements by each debater in turn. And here, making his closing statement in support of the motion, Tim Draper.
So I have here statements that I think you guys should hear. A rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. New York Times, 1936. When the Paris exhibition of 1878 closes, electric light will close with it and no more will be heard of it. Oxford professor Erasmus Wilson. It'll be gone by June. This is Variety magazine talking about rock and roll in 1955. The world potential for copying machines is 5,000 at most. That's IBM avoiding buying Xerox. The wireless music box has no imaginable commercial value. Who would pay for a message sent to no one in particular? That's the associates of David Sarnoff responding to the latter's call for investment in the radio in 1921. There's no reason for any individual to have a computer in his home. Ken Olson, president of Digital Equipment Corporation, which is now gone. Television won't last because people will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night. 20th Century Fox, Daryl Zanuck in 1946. The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad. Didn't I hear that? President of Michigan Savings Bank advising Henry Ford's lawyer. X-rays will prove to be a hoax. That was 1883. I think there is a world market for maybe 5 computers. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. And then this is the real killer. The head of the Patent Office in 1899, Charles Dewey, said, anything that can be invented has been invented. So, you know, you're taking a tough position, you two. Please vote for Bitcoin. You don't want to be one of those guys.
Thank you, Tim Draper. The motion again, Bitcoin is more than a bubble and here to stay.